I've been lucky enough to sit down with change makers in the accessibility space to hear their insights and perspective on how technology can help drive access and inclusion. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome our guest, Dr. James Fielding. Dr. Fielding studied business management and biomedical science at the University of Queensland and then at the UQ Medical School. It was there where the idea first came to him, and he co-founded Audeara while working full-time as a junior doctor. Dr. Fielding remains dedicated to improving lives and is passionate about redefining hearing health and raising awareness of how listening well supports connection and well-being throughout life. And he strives to surround himself with people who he knows can teach him something. Dr. Fielding, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to help you out in that department today, but I do look forward to you teaching me today. Hello, and thank you for spending time with us.
Really looking forward to it, Dave. It's going to be great. And don't worry, I'm sure we'll teach each other a lot.
James, you've seen some of these, you know the drill. We usually kick things off with something completely different, a totally random question that's the opposite of hard hitting, just to warm us both up. Are you up for it?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm ready.
As a drummer, I was wondering if you have a perspective on the following question. Would you rather be followed by a tiny marching band that plays a rim shot every time you say Bluetooth, or have your drumsticks glow blue every time someone connects using Bluetooth?
Oh, blue drumsticks every single time. How cool would that be? It would be like in Lord of the Rings when you know there's orcs around and then all of a sudden like the blue starts glowing out and makes you get ready for what's coming. I think that would be epic.
You're
I think
precious.
having an internationally tapped in recognition of people communicating and connecting with each other, that's a dream come true. So if you could whip that up, because I know you have connections in the space, I'd really appreciate it.
I love it. We'll get some people on the glowing
Yeah,
connected drumstick. Yeah.
yeah, just get on that, Dave. That'd be great. Appreciate it.
Well, the first thing I wanted to do is that, we mentioned Audeara in the introduction, but I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about Audeara.
Sure. So essentially, we're coming up on 10 years of Audeara, which is super exciting. But the original idea for the whole thing came about during MBA studies while I was finishing up medical school. And I was really fortunate to be given an opportunity to be put in a room with some really interesting people that were setting about to solve some problems in the public health space here in Australia. And it was easier to get an appointment to see the surgeon than it was to get an appointment to see the audiologist and get your hearing tested.
Wow.
And when we were talking about that, it really sparked a recognition and awareness of the issues people face in trying to understand their hearing, get help with their hearing, but even have hearing on their radar. We were, I think, 24, 25 when this was happening, and we don't really think about hearing that much. We're like most people running around, and it got us looking at all the different areas where imagine what would happen if people knew about their hearing and could change the way their world sounded. And then we set about a hearing test in a set of Bluetooth noise cancelling headphones. And our secret sauce was flipping the way a hearing test is done, which is a very sophisticated computer with some cables running to a very simple pair of headphones. We took the computer, put it inside the headphones, and then sent the data commands via Bluetooth. And in doing so, you're able to calibrate the headphones. And from there, now that each headphone can understand the hearing of each listener, the light bulb struck. Let's show people what the world can sound like if they take the time to tailor it up. A buddy of mine put them on and was doing a test, and it was the first time he'd heard vocals in his left ear in 30 years because he'd just kind of given up on how good things can sound. And we gave a simple, easy way for him to reconnect with that experience. And we got hooked on giving people that experience and how good that felt. So we really just want as many people as possible to understand how much better their life can be if they are in control of how their world sounds.
It's so funny because one of the things I've come to appreciate from having conversations with people like yourself on this topic, you know, even the most health conscious people out there, like if you're to ask them what they're focused on when it comes to their health and well-being, hearing is not often at the top of their list. In fact, sometimes it's like you said, just completely off their radar. Can you share your perspective on why hearing health is just so important for our overall health and the way we experience the world?
I think the best way to do that, like in most instances when you're looking at health, is to take it away. And the impact that hearing loss has on people, whether it be hearing loss from a infection or a buildup of earwax, or you go swimming and you come out and you have water stuck in you, and all of a sudden you're going, whoa, 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 I need to fix this. This is a problem. And when I talk to different people who run hearing health programs, the way I equate it is, if somebody said in 10 seconds, I'm going to let off a bomb over there, people would shield themselves. They'd understand that something big and loud and dangerous is coming, and they would protect themselves, turn themselves away, and do that. But if I say, let's go and see AC/DC in a tiny 200-person room, let's get after it. People go in arms wide, start singing along to bomb after bomb after bomb after bomb after bomb, because it's all about context. And I think we get to this point of gradual loss and gradual decline, and it is gradual because the bomb goes off, it gets fixed. The concert happens, that's fun. And you do it again and again and again. And what happens is, by the time people get to kind of 50, 60 years old, naturally, they go, oh, it's an old person thing. And people see hearing loss as an old person problem, not a human being problem. And even when you're 60, you think, oh, I'm not old enough to be deaf. I'll wait till I'm 70. And then when you're 70, you go, I'm not old enough to be deaf. You wait till you're 80. Once people get over the fact that they need some help, it truly transforms their lives. And I think if people get a taste of that early, especially with tech adoption and the way the world is, we can genuinely get rid of all of those moments of friction and just make people happier.
But what I really appreciate about your story is how it so vividly puts noise management into perspective. You know, you literally like you're going to that concert, you're opting in, you're signing up to be surrounded by audible bombs all evening, right? And you're enjoying, like you
Yeah,
said, you're enjoying it, every
yeah.
moment of it. But it does have, you know, long-term implications, and you know, our ability to focus on our hearing health and our noise management is so important, but often overlooked. How do you how can you help us understand the impact that direct to ear audio can have in transforming the experience, not only for people with hearing loss in public spaces, but really to help everyone, regardless of their hearing health,
Mm.
proactively manage noise and hearing well-being?
I'm really glad you said the last bit, because that's something we've been campaigning about for a while, that having a really great listening experience is not a deaf person prerogative. Being able to go in, accessible hearing kind of sometimes gives it that tweak to, I'm doing it because I need to, because I have a problem. And I think if we shift that to, I'm the kind of person that wants to have the best possible experience, it's a listening enhancement solution. You can then get people to go, oh, I want that. Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes it's easier to start in more controlled environments. So, for example, using Zoom, right? Here we are right now on other sides of the world. I've got some stuff going on around me. I've got my wife upstairs working. I've got neighbors getting about with their day, but not in here, I don't. I've got my noise cancelling on, and I've got your voice, which I want to listen to right here. And when you go to a venue, and I do a bunch of these, conferences for work or awards nights or lunch presentations about some kind of topic, and there's a person at the end on a podium with their little microphone and a PA system that's either crazy loud or not loud enough, and a hubbub of a couple of hundred people around. And even sometimes I just use one, because I've hacked into the PA system and I've bolted on my little Auracaster, and I just put one in, and all of a sudden I'm straight in, and I get to control. Do I want to hear the hubbub? If so, great. Am I really interested in what that person's saying? I'll pop it in. If you and I were Zooming now and there was a lawnmower outside and I found that super distracting and annoying, I would do something about it. And the same thing is now becoming possible when you go to these different venues and these different environments. You can have that same level of control.
Yeah, I mean, what you're describing is basically being able to choose what your world sounds like. And I mean,
Yeah.
that is a
And why not
profound,
choose better? Why
yeah,
wouldn't you choose for your world to sound better?
yeah,
It doesn't make any sense to me to choose to go, instead of going, I have a solution for that. If there was cut glass all over the floor, you'd put shoes on. I just use the tools available to you to make the world better. And this is just one of those tools.
we've spoken earlier, and you shared a story about the trade show floor, which is, I mean, I don't know about you, but for me, having coherent conversations, feeling engaged, feeling present, on the trade show floor is a huge, huge challenge. I'm wondering if you're willing to share,
Yeah.
your experience on the trade show floor that you've shared with me earlier.
I had taken the morning flight down to Sydney last week. There was a big industry trade show, and for anyone listening who's not aware of that environment, essentially think of it like a street stall of just endless people, one after the other, who all want your attention and all want to be talking to you. And there's often music and there's lights, and there'll be different people. We were at an AV conference. Everyone's trying to show off how great the speakers are and how loud this is. And so you're trying to have a one-on-one conversation. And for me, it was a very important conversation that I had flown down to have with a person who was very interested in what we're doing. So, from a business point of view, this was something I really wanted to do. But what I didn't want to be doing the whole time is this, and coming in and, would you mind if I just, oh, no, say that again? You don't want to disrupt the flow, right? And the gentleman I was speaking with was a very softly spoken gentleman. And he was sitting relaxed at his stall, speaking very softly. And I was using every single ounce of energy I had. I'm reading his lips, and I'm trying my best not to lean across the table just so I can get involved in what he's trying to say. And so instead, I used the opportunity to showcase exactly what we were trying to work together on. And I gave him a little microphone that we have, a little lapel that teachers in schools and little bits and pieces. And so I said, hey, you should check this out. And I gave it to him, and he joined it with a set of Auracast buds. I joined it with a set of Auracast buds. And I physically felt my entire body relax into this conversation. And when I was able to put my noise cancelling on, and he had his microphone, and his voice was piped straight in to my noise cancelled buds, everything became easier. My responses are clearer, my responses are sharper. You're able to use all of that excess energy, which is just around you, and put it back into what you're actually trying to do. And I think the more people who take those little opportunities to be going, oh, this isn't actually about, like, this isn't a deaf person tool. This is a communication tool. I think people who can start to reframe it and take a more kind of open, positive lens to what this technology is trying to do, yeah, if you haven't already, you should, I think, is the bottom line. Because I think people will be really surprised at how much better their energy levels are, and that kind of overwhelm feeling people get, and that cognitive fatigue of using all that energy to try and hear. when you want to listen. You don't want to hear. The two things are very different. I could hear the words he was saying. What I was struggling to do is listen to those words because I was hearing everything else and I didn't want to. And I was able to make that choice. And I think that's where we want to get to.
I think you'll probably have a pretty provocative answer to this, but if you could change one thing about how accessibility is approached today, what would it be?
I would change the word and I would make a better experience what it's about. I think in trying to ensure people have access, that's what accessibility means, that's great. But unfortunately, we live in a world where people then put you in a bucket and they provide accessible solutions per bucket. And so I get it, but you end up in this world that's about box ticking. And what we're trying to create is a world where, as a person, whatever my need set may be, as an individual, I want the chance to go wherever the heck I want and have whatever experience I choose. That's the holy grail, right? That's people feeling empowered and advocated for that when they go somewhere, they are in control of their experience. Shouldn't you just be creating an opportunity where as many people as possible are going to love coming to your venue or love utilizing whatever this resource is? That's what we should be aiming at. So, yeah, I think accessibility is a nice label, and I get it and understand that as humans, we need to do our best to kind of simplify things and put boxes around things. But then the goal is to get rid of all of that and just make it about people being able to choose their experience, whatever that means for them.
What role is Bluetooth, including Auracast, playing in enabling people to choose their experience, right? Creating more inclusive experiences and
Mm.
improving hearing health.
I think when you look at the ability to have people make a positive choice about how they want to listen, that's where you start to see these events. And even from back in the day when car stereos, for example, it's analog, and then there were little FM receivers, and it was the world is on, anyone can join, all that kind of stuff, and radio channels. And all of a sudden, there were little Bluetooth voice capture boxes, and there was this sense of, well, that's mine. I'm paired to this. This is my thing. And there used to be a cable, now there's not. And that's cool, right? Because that creates an opportunity to carry it however you want, use it however you want, have an earbud in to make phone calls, get around, you're in control, it's your device. And now you move into Auracast, where you are in an incredibly simple way putting that music or that communication into the environment in a way that people are then choosing to join, right? That idea that there are now signals around and you're going to join that signal, and it may ask you for a password, it may not. But when you hit that button, the noise comes out. Bang. And so when you start looking at how simple that is going to be from an install and operation point of view, it becomes a no brainer. You can plug this thing in and now it's broadcasting the sound. And if people choose to join it, happy days. But I think where it flips is the advocacy of people being able to turn up with their own device that they know that they are comfortable with. When I was at Performing Arts Centre last week for a show and tell about the new Auracast transmitters they put into the big, beautiful music halls there, and they had a bunch of people from the Cochlear Implant Society who advocate for the different versions of their accessible solutions, right? Which is often different loops and bits and bobs, and that's the challenge. The challenge is when you go to a place the steps you need to go through to enhance your experience are often big enough that most people don't. So the people that feel they have to will go through the steps. But the people that don't or won't or feel a bit put off by all of that, they then don't have that enhanced experience and they go anyway, but then they stop. And I think if you can give people a sense of confidence and control over the devices they're using. When I was at this event, we were plugging in some of our little adapters, right? A little Auracast adapter. So people were able to use their own microphone that they use every single day, that they put in front of people and it beams directly to their cochlea. And they were blown away at this notion that I could just plug in a little widget. And all of a sudden, they were joining the Auracast. They didn't have to borrow the center's neck loop and receiver and all this stuff and plug around and try and get the settings right on their phone. This is a thing they use all day, every day to connect with the world. You plug in a little adapter widget, all of a sudden, you're hearing what you want to hear in a way you understand. And that is super powerful in reframing how many people are actually going to use the solutions available. Because when you talk to venues, they go, oh, nobody ever seems to come in. Nobody ever seems to go, what do you think that is? Is it because they turn up to a lecture theatre and they're told, oh, there's accessible tech here, but they have to go across campus to the library and borrow one and fill out a form, do it, and nobody wants to do that. And then people stop going to the Performing Arts Centre because they just can't hear it. And people stop going to the cafe because it's there. Or they stop going to the sports bar because it's too loud. I can't hear it, and people stop. And when people stop engaging with the world around them, we have let them down. As people who are trying to provide solutions, people shouldn't feel overwhelmed going to a thing that they were hoping to enjoy to the point where they just stop because they can't be bothered. That is horrible. And we should fix that. And I like to think that Bluetooth plays a big role in that. Obviously, it does for us. That's the weapon we use to try and change the conversation. But the most important thing is that advocacy, people being in control. And that's what Auracast gives people, and that's why we like it. That's why we're pushing so hard for it. That's why we're going out early, we're going out hard, and we're saying there is no reason you shouldn't just plug one of these things in, because it's going to unlock a tremendous improvement in how people experience where they're going.
And I'm curious from your perspective, you said earlier, there's nothing like experiencing it, right? So when you've managed to convince, a venue, whatever it might be, to go ahead and give it a shot, what's generally been the reaction from those, facility managers or venue
Yeah.
owners that
The
you've seen?
yeah, my favorite one is that they don't believe me when I say, if you can just give me a line out, I'll just plug it in. Yeah, pardon? Like we took over a convention center down in Adelaide. It was an accessibility solution that we had for the big audiology conference down there. And there were emails back and forth and this and power ratings and has been checked. Then we just rocked up at 9. I had to, John had to, Rob had to, and we just went into each room and went, don't worry, we'll get them in a couple of days. And I went, how do you mean? Well, that I'm done now. Like we're finished. That's it. This is now an Auracast enabled venue. They're going, oh, that's pretty cool. I had my daughter with me at the City Hall event where we plugged in our little transmitter, and she was there explaining people how to use our little headphones. And she's there going, oh, it's really easy. You just tap this button, and then all of a sudden it'll come out. I was like, great, because that's it. And if a 9-year-old can do it, anyone can do it.
What's your long-term vision for how technology can continue to reshape public participation, quality of life, and inclusion?
I think we reach a point where every single person has the tools available to them to connect with the world however they choose. And I think putting a bit of a time stamp on that, we have the Olympics coming to Brisbane in 2032, very big deal for the city. and you start looking at what could that experience be like for a non-English speaker coming to a predominantly English speaking country, trying to get from A to B, turning up at the airport, turning up at these enormous, beautiful stadiums we're building, jumping on the train, jumping on the bus, and the simple little thing of, instead of a person jumping on the bus and going, the next station will be, it'll be whatever language they need, whatever stop they need. And I think, considering where we are now, that is not an unattainable goal. There is so much tech in the universe that people have phones, people can have earbuds, people can have venues that are accommodating for whatever their need set is. Like, that's not a stretch goal. That's a very reasonable goal. And then I think the stretch goal, when you look kind of 10, 20, 30 into the future, is that it is so positively integrated in however you need it that you're then completely in control of where you want to be, what you're hearing, how you're hearing it, what that means to you. And all of a sudden, you're breaking down all these barriers, and people can just get about and have a more incredible time than they've ever had before. And we see it, we just need to see it at scale. And if we set these nice targets, like for the Olympics, I want it to be at the airport. I want it to be on the buses and trains, or I want it to be in the stadiums. And I want people to have that choice. And that's something that we're campaigning for, and we'll keep campaigning for. And I think that as you start to milestone it out, these are things that, step by step, you're giving people control back, and the world will be a better place for it.
James, this has been great. Thanks for letting us steal so much of your time. Thank you for what you're doing to help, champion hearing health and inclusion, and to help, bring solutions and experiences to market that can make a difference in people's lives.
Oh, that's very kind of you, Dave. It was a great chat. I know I talk an awful lot, but I do really care about this stuff. So it's nice to get a chance, to have some people, see it how I see it, and see what I can see, and see how simple it is in my mind. And there's just a bunch of steps to get us from A to B.
Yeah. Well, we're excited that you're on the journey, and we appreciate all you're doing.